The city breathes differently after midnight. The rumble of traffic softens to a distant hum. The neon lights blur into a watercolor wash, and the world belongs to the creatures of the night. For a seasoned tomcat like Leo, this was prime time. His kingdom was a labyrinth of back alleys, a patchwork of shadows and smells that he knew better than the pads of his own paws. Tonight, like any other, he began his patrol. The moon, a sliver of bone white, cast long, distorted shadows as he slid through a familiar gap between a bakery and a laundromat. This alley was his main thoroughfare, the spine of his territory. The air was thick with the day's ghosts, stale bread from the bakery, bleach from the laundromat, and the sweet, decaying perfume of overflowing dumpsters. It was the scent of home. Leo moved with a liquid grace, a silent hunter in his domain. His whiskers twitched, sampling the air for rivals or a late-night snack. He paused by the first dumpster, a hulking green beast, and leapt onto its lid with practiced ease. The metal lid was cool beneath his paws. He surveyed his kingdom from this modest throne, his tail giving a slow, deliberate sweep. Everything was as it should be. The distant siren, the drip of a leaky pipe, the rustle of a rat in the trash, all the familiar notes of his nocturnal symphony. He hopped down and continued his journey. The alley stretched before him, a familiar canyon of brick and concrete. He passed the graffiti-covered wall, a chaotic mural he'd seen evolve over the years. He passed the boarded-up window of the old tailor shop. But then something felt off. It wasn't a sound or a smell. It was a feeling, a subtle pressure in the air, like the moment before a storm breaks. He stopped, head cocked, ears swiveling to catch the slightest anomaly. The alley seemed shorter. The dumpster at the far end, usually a respectable distance away, now loomed closer. The brick walls on either side felt tighter, as if they had leaned in to whisper secrets to each other. Leo blinked his wide, green eyes. Perhaps it was a trick of the moonlight, a distortion of the shadows. He'd been a street cat his whole life. He knew that the night could play games with your senses. He shook his head, a ripple running through his sleek orange fur, and pressed on. But the feeling intensified with every step he took. The space constricted. The walls were definitely closing in. The gap between the dumpsters, which he could usually stroll through with room to spare, was now barely wide enough for him to squeeze through. The air grew thick and heavy, and the familiar smells of the alley became overpowering, cloying. A flicker of unease, a sensation he hadn't felt in this alley for a very long time, pricked at him. He glanced back over his shoulder, and his heart, for the first time that night, gave a hard, panic thump against his ribs. The entrance, the gap between the bakery and the laundromat, was gone. Where there had been an opening to the street, there was now just a solid, unbroken wall of brick, indistinguishable from the rest of the alley. He was trapped. The alley was no longer a path. It had become a cage. The space continued to shrink, the walls groaning softly as they inched closer. The ground beneath his paws seemed to vibrate with a low, menacing hum. Panic began to bubble up, hot and sharp. His instinct screamed at him to run, to bolt, but there was nowhere to go. Forward was a dead end that was rapidly approaching. Backward was a solid wall that hadn't been there moments ago. Leo was a survivor. Panic was a luxury he couldn't afford. He forced the fear down, his mind racing. He looked around, his gaze darting, searching for an escape. The walls were too smooth, too high to climb. The ground offered no purchase, no sewer grate to slip through. The world had become a box, and the lid was closing. Then he looked up. Above him, the sliver of night sky was a narrow ribbon, framed by the rooftops. It was his only way out, the fire escape. It clung to the side of the bakery, a rusty metal ladder to the heavens. It was his only chance. He didn't hesitate. He gathered his powerful hind legs and sprang. His claws scrabbled for purchase on the cold, unforgiving brick. He missed, sliding back down to the grimy pavement. The walls groaned again, closer now. He could feel their oppressive presence pressing in on him. He tried again, a desperate, flying leap, fueled by pure adrenaline. This time, his front paws hooked onto the lowest rung of the fire escape. He dangled for a terrifying moment, his back legs kicking at the air. The alley squeezed tighter, the metal dumpsters scraping against the brick with a sound like grinding teeth. With a surge of strength, he hauled himself up. His paws found the next rung and the next. He scrambled upward, a frantic ascent away from the suffocating pressure below. He didn't dare look down. He just climbed, the rusty metal cold and sharp under his pads, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The higher he climbed, the more the pressure eased. The air grew thinner, cleaner, he could breathe again. Finally, he pulled himself over the edge and collapsed onto the flat, tarred surface of the roof, his body trembling. He lay there for a long time, his sides heaving, listening to the frantic beat of his own heart. The city spread out around him, a glittering tapestry of lights under the vast, indifferent sky. It was a view he'd seen 100 times, but tonight it felt different. It felt like salvation. He crept to the edge and peered down. The alley was still there, but it was just an alley again. A normal, static, boring alley. The walls were where they should be. The entrance to the street was open and visible. The dumpsters stood in their usual places, silent and unmoving. It was as if the whole terrifying ordeal had been a nightmare, a figment of his overactive feline imagination, but he knew it wasn't. The trembling in his limbs, the lingering scent of ozone and crushed space, the memory of the solid wall where an escape route should have been, it was all real. Leo stayed on the rooftops for the rest of the night, a silent sentinel watching over the sleeping city. He didn't understand what had happened in his alley. It was a place of rules, of predictable patterns, and tonight it had broken all of them. It had become something ancient and predatory. As the first hint of dawn painted the eastern sky in shades of gray and pink, a sense of calm returned. The morning light, clean and honest, chased away the last of the night's weirdness. The city began to stir. The first delivery trucks rumbled down the street, their headlight cutting through the gloom. From his vantage point, Leo watched as the baker arrived, yawning and unlocking the back door that opened into the alley. A moment later, a resident from the apartment above tossed a bag of trash from their window, and it landed with a soft thud in the dumpster below. It was all so normal, so mundane, but Leo knew better. He knew that beneath the ordinary surface of the city, strange things stirred. He knew that his alley kept secrets, and that after midnight, it wasn't always just an alley. He was a creature of the night, and the night had shown him a glimpse of its true, impossible face. And as the sun rose, casting a golden glow over his city, Leo, the king of his small, strange kingdom, settled down to wait for the next patrol. He would be back. He had to be. It was his territory, after all. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales from the hidden corners of the world. Let us know in the comments if you've ever had an experience you just can't explain. Until next time.